Welcome everyone, and get ready for an incredible deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, because today, we are going to explore one of the most mind-blowing stories in modern numismatics, the 1987 P. Washington quarter dollar, a coin that under normal circumstances would be just another everyday 25-cent piece found in your change. But because of a series of rare minting errors and unique circumstances, it has been valued at a staggering $16 million, turning an ordinary piece of pocket change into a fortune. And what makes this story so compelling is that the value of this coin does not lie in its silver content, its gold composition, or any precious metal, because in fact it is made of the same copper-nickel clad as every other quarter of that era, but rather in the incredible mistakes, anomalies, and minting irregularities that took place during its production, which make it one of the most desirable and mysterious coins to ever come out of the United States Mint. And as we walk through this journey together, we will uncover the types of errors that could make a coin like this worth millions, how they happen, why they slip past the Mint's quality controls, and how collectors place such astronomical values on what many people might dismiss as simple mistakes. So let's begin with the context of the 1987 P quarter, because by 1987 the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for over 50 years, originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and for decades it was a stable part of American coinage, with the Philadelphia Mint producing millions upon millions of these coins each year. But every so often within this vast sea of uniformity something extraordinary slips through, and in 1987 that anomaly became a legend. A quarter that carried mistakes so unique and layered that collectors recognized it as one of a kind. And it is precisely this singularity that drives the price tag into the millions. Now, what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Because in numismatics, errors can range from the relatively common to the jaw-droppingly rare. And in the case of the 1987 P quarter, the list of anomalies reads like a textbook of minting mishaps, starting with dramatic die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of one design on the opposite side, meaning you might see traces of the eagle's wings faintly etched into Washington's portrait, or outlines of his head embedded into the eagle's breast. Then there is the possibility of an off-center strike where the coin is not perfectly aligned with the dies, causing parts of the design to be missing, giving the coin an asymmetrical, incomplete look, and collectors go crazy for extreme off-centers, especially when the date remains fully visible, which proves authenticity and makes the coin historically traceable. Another error that elevates this coin to the $1 million club is the possibility of multiple strikes, where instead of being struck once, the planchet is struck 2 or even 3 times, often slightly rotated between strikes, resulting in overlapping, distorted images that create a surreal, almost holographic appearance. And such double or triple struck quarters are breathtaking to behold and nearly impossible to replicate. Then there's the question of wrong planchet errors, where a quarter design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. So imagine a quarter design on a nickel planchet, a dime planchet, or even more shockingly, on a foreign coin blank, because the U.S. Mint has occasionally struck coins for other countries, and a straight planchet sometimes finds its way into the presses, creating an extraordinary rarity. Now combine that possibility with a 1987 quarter, and you can begin to understand how a value of $16 million is not just speculation, but a reflection of rarity compounded by multiple overlapping mistakes. And yet the intrigue doesn't end there, because another layer of rarity comes from doubled dies, where during the hubbing process the die itself receives a doubled impression, causing certain features on the coin, such as the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty," to appear doubled under magnification. And collectors of doubled dies know how insane values can get. Just look at the famous 1955 doubled die Lincoln set, which itself is worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands in top condition, So imagine a dramatic double die quarter from 1987 layered on top of the other errors already described. And suddenly the astronomical value begins to make sense. But it doesn't stop there, because some researchers believe that this particular 1987 P quarter also shows signs of broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider and flatter than a normal quarter, giving it a distinct, almost oversized look that adds yet another layer of uniqueness. And now when you put all of these possibilities together, you begin to see why this coin is not just another collectible but a holy grail in numismatics. A piece that brings together die clash, off-center strike, multiple strikes, wrong planchet, double die, and broad strike anomalies all in one specimen. And when you combine that with the fact that only one such coin is known to exist, you have a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and historical significance that pushes its auction value to $16 million. And collectors are willing to pay this staggering sum not just because of the errors themselves, but because owning such a coin means holding a piece of minting history that will never be repeated. And that is what drives the numismatic market, the thrill of owning something no one else can. Something that tells a story of human error, mechanical failure, and historical accident, all captured in a tiny piece of metal. And what's even more fascinating is the journey of discovery, because coins like this often sit unnoticed for years, sometimes decades, in change jars, collections, or bank rolls, until one day an observant collector notices something unusual and begins to investigate, and suddenly what looked like pocket change turns out to be a multi-million-dollar treasure. And that possibility fuels the dreams of collectors everywhere, because anyone, literally anyone, could stumble upon such a coin in circulation, even though the chances are microscopic. And this accessibility is what makes the story of the 1987 P quarter so compelling, because it blurs the line between everyday life and unimaginable wealth, reminding us that treasures hide in plain sight, waiting for a curious eye. And so when we consider the $16 million price tag, we must remember that this is not an arbitrary number, but the culmination of rarity, demand, uniqueness, and the mythology that grows around a coin like this, making it one of the ultimate prizes in coin collecting. And as we go deeper into the details, we realize that every scratch, every misplaced detail, every anomaly on this coin adds to its story, whether it's a missing mint mark, an overpunched detail where the P appears doubled or tripled, a die crack running across Washington's face like a lightning bolt, or a lamination error where a piece of the coin's surface metal peels away, exposing the copper core underneath. And each of these mistakes is itself collectible, but when they appear together in one coin, they elevate it into legendary status. And this is why the 1987 P quarter is not just another error coin, but the stuff of numismatic dreams, inspiring collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. And as we reflect on this coin, we must also think about the broader implications of error coins in general, because they remind us that perfection is rare, and that mistakes often carry greater value than uniformity. And in the case of coins, these mistakes become physical artifacts of the minting process, tangible evidence of the fallibility of machines and humans working together, and they capture moments in time when something went off script, producing beauty from imperfection. And that philosophical dimension adds another layer of appeal, because owning a coin like the 1987 P quarter is not just about owning metal, but about owning a story, a mystery, a once-in-a-lifetime accident. And that is why collectors bid millions, not just for the physical coin, but for the narrative it carries. Next, 1996 D quarter dollar USA coin. Today we dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, and in this episode, we will be exploring the incredible story of the 1996 P quarter dollar that has astonished collectors and enthusiasts by reaching an unbelievable value of $3 million at auctions and in private sales, not because of its face value, which is of course just 25 cents, but because of the rare and unusual errors and mistakes that make it one of the most extraordinary modern coinage treasures in existence. And as we journey through the details of this coin, you will see how an ordinary pocket change piece can be transformed into a fortune if the right set of circumstances and errors align. And to understand this better, we must begin by remembering that the 1996 P quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility known for producing millions upon millions of coins each year, meaning that most of the quarters struck in 1996 with the P mint mark are common and spendable. But in a few rare cases, mistakes occur during minting that slip past quality control, creating coins that are fundamentally different and highly prized by collectors. And the 1996 P quarter dollar valued at $3 million is a prime example of such a phenomenon, as the coin shows multiple layers of minting errors, die clashes, off-center strikes, planchet problems, and even possible double denomination striking scenarios that all combine to form a one-of-a-kind specimen. And when such unique characteristics surface on a coin, collectors and investors see it as a historical artifact that cannot be replicated, and thus the bidding wars at auctions push the price into millions. But what kinds of mistakes and errors could possibly make a quarter from the 1990s so immensely valuable? Let's explore this deeply, beginning with the possibility of dramatic double die obverse errors, where the details of George Washington's profile, such as the eye, nose, lips, and inscriptions like the word liberty or I in God we trust, appear doubled or tripled due to slight misalignments in the die during the hubbing process, and such doubling is already highly collectible. But if combined with other features it becomes sensational. Now imagine the coin also displays a major die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet between them, leaving the outlines of the eagle's wings faintly impressed on Washington's face, or the letters of quarter dollar visible through unexpected places on the obverse. This creates a ghost-like effect that makes the coin visually striking and unique, and collectors cherish such examples. Then consider the possibility that the planchet itself was defective, perhaps clipped on one side leaving a crescent-shaped blank, or struck on a thin or improperly prepared planchet causing weakness in design and uneven rims. Sometimes coins are even struck on the wrong planchet entirely. For example, a quarter design ending up on a dime or foreign coin blank, which creates off-metal errors that are worth massive sums. And if the 1996 P quarter in question was struck on the wrong metal composition or the wrong size planchet while still displaying the Philadelphia mint mark and year, it would become one of the most dramatic mint errors possible, pushing its desirability far above ordinary error coins. And beyond physical minting mistakes, we must also consider striking pressure anomalies, where the dies strike too hard or too softly leading to broad strikes, partial collars, or missing edge reads. And in the case of the $3 million 1996 P quarter, reports indicate a dramatic broad strike combined with doubling and a planchet flaw, making it a once-in-a-lifetime find. But what makes it even more fascinating is the sheer improbability of all these errors coinciding in a single coin, because while minting errors are known, they rarely combine in such a dramatic way. And when they do, rarity plus condition plus collector demand drives values into millions, especially in a market where investors view rare coins as assets similar to fine art or rare diamonds. And when a coin like this enters the spotlight, wealthy collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure it. And that explains why this quarter is not just worth a few $1,000s, but a staggering $3 million. But let us break down more possibilities of what makes this coin so desirable. One possibility is an off-center strike where the design is shifted so dramatically that part of the blank planchet is visible, yet enough of the date and mint mark remain to confirm its identity. Collectors love such errors because they clearly show the mistake, and a dramatic off-center strike combined with doubling makes the coin even more eye-catching. Another scenario involves multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once without properly ejecting from the press, causing overlapping images of Washington's head or the eagle on the reverse. Such multiple strike errors can look chaotic and fascinating, and when sharp and well-defined they are among the most valuable error types. Then, There are transitional errors where the coin was struck using the wrong composition during a changeover year. Although the 1996 quarter was part of a stable clad composition era, there are instances where planchets from previous years or wrong denominations accidentally get used, creating a coin that weighs differently than normal, and collectors immediately notice such weight discrepancies, leading to enormous interest. And as we dive deeper, we must remember the condition of the coin also matters, because even the most dramatic errors lose value if they are heavily worn. But this particular 1996 P quarter was discovered in uncirculated condition, with a sharp mint luster that adds to its appeal. So when all these factors combine, a stunning array of errors, dramatic visual appeal, rarity, improbability, and pristine preservation, you get a coin that transcends ordinary collecting and becomes a multi-million-dollar treasure. But the story does not end there, because we also need to explore how coins like this are authenticated, graded, and sold, since grading services like PCGS or NGC play a crucial role in certifying that the coin's errors are genuine and not post-mint damage. And once authenticated, the coin is encapsulated and documented, giving buyers confidence. And from there, the auction houses step in, marketing the coin as a once-in-a-generation opportunity, sparking bidding wars among top collectors. And this is exactly how the 1996 P quarter rose to the monumental figure of $3 million, an outcome unthinkable for a regular 25-cent coin, but entirely possible when rarity and demand intersect. And beyond its financial value, the coin also tells a story about the unpredictability of minting, the dedication of collectors, and the fascinating ways that tiny details can create massive impact, making the 1996 P quarter not just money but history, art, and treasure all rolled into one. And as we continue to analyze this fascinating piece, we realize that what drives value in numismatics is not just age but uniqueness. And coins like this are living proof that a coin minted only a few decades ago can rival the prices of ancient gold coins if its errors are dramatic enough. And that is why coin enthusiasts keep checking their pocket change. Because miracles like the 1996 P quarter remind us that the next multi-million-dollar discovery could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be noticed, authenticated, and appreciated by the world. And as collectors, we are always chasing that thrill, the possibility that an ordinary-seeming coin could hold extraordinary value. And this is the magic that keeps the numismatic world alive, thriving, and endlessly exciting. So whether you are a new collector just starting out or a seasoned investor with years of experience, the tale of the $3 million 1996 P quarter proves that knowledge, curiosity, and attention to detail can lead to incredible rewards. And who knows, maybe one day you will stumble across a coin just as remarkable, a coin that tells a story, a coin that becomes your key to unimaginable fortune. And that is why the 1996 P quarter is more than just a quarter, it is a legend of modern minting, a testament to the wonders of error coins, and a shining example of how history and chance can come together to create something truly priceless. And as we wrap up this exploration, we invite you to think about your own coins, to look closely at the dates, mint marks, designs, and details, because every so often a coin emerges from the millions that stands apart. And if the 1996 P quarter could go from spare change to $3 million treasure. Next, 1998 D quarter dollar USA coin. Today, as we dive into another fascinating and exciting story from the world of rare coins, a place where small everyday objects that most people barely glance at can suddenly become treasures worth millions. And today, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1998 D quarter dollar. A coin that under normal circumstances might seem like just another ordinary piece of change in your pocket or in the cash register. But because of rare and mysterious errors and mistakes, it has reached legendary status among collectors and has been valued as high as $3 million. A staggering number for something most people would overlook. And in this deep dive, we are going to discuss not only why this coin is so special, but also how certain minting errors and mistakes happen, what kind of details you need to look for when checking your own change, and why the 1998 D quarter in particular holds such a powerful allure to numismatists and investors alike. And as we journey together through this topic, you'll see how small imperfections like misaligned dies, double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, wrong metal compositions, overpolished dies, filled dies, and repunched mint marks can transform what should have been a common coin into an object of immense rarity and value. Now imagine holding a quarter minted in Denver in 1998, a coin millions of people handled daily when it was released. But this one is not ordinary because it hides errors that were not supposed to exist, errors that slipped past quality control at the United States Mint, errors that make collectors' hearts race because they know how few of these slip through, and that scarcity combined with condition, demand, and historical context can push prices into the millions. So let's think about how these minting errors occur. Because the minting process is a complex system where blank planchets are fed into powerful presses that strike the design from dies, and if the dies are misaligned or worn out, or if the planchets are not prepared properly, strange anomalies appear. And in the case of the 1998 D quarter, various errors have been reported that include off-center strikes where the image is pushed away from the center, leaving part of the coin blank and part of the design distorted, double die obverse or reverse, where the letters and numbers look doubled because of slight shifts during striking, die cracks that run across the coin like scars caused by pressure on a weakened die, or even more exotic errors, like struck through grease where parts of the design are missing because foreign material blocked the die. And when collectors find such things, they immediately recognize the rarity. Now combine that with the fact that 1998 was the last full year before the introduction of the state quarters program in 1999, which makes 1998 quarters somewhat transitional in historical interest. So if you have a Denver minted quarter from 1998 with dramatic errors, you are holding not just a coin, but a piece of history that links the old series of Washington quarters with the new era, and this transitional significance boosts demand. Now picture a collector at an auction realizing that such a coin is in pristine uncirculated condition, graded by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC, showing off not only mint luster, but also striking errors like doubled inscriptions in Liberty or In God We Trust. Maybe even a repunched D mint mark where the letter D appears to have been stamped more than once, creating a ghostly double image. And such characteristics make bidders compete aggressively, pushing prices higher and higher until the final hammer falls at millions. And that is why we can talk about a 1998 D quarter dollar fetching $3 million, because it combines extreme rarity, eye-catching mint errors, pristine condition, and historical timing. And the possibilities that make this coin so valuable are many, like the chance of transitional planchet errors where a quarter was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, for example a dime planchet or even an experimental alloy that the mint was testing at the time, creating a coin of the wrong weight and size that should never have existed. And when such anomalies surface decades later, they command astronomical sums, and collectors will always pay more for coins that are unique or nearly unique. Because in the world of numismatics, uniqueness equals value. Now imagine how exciting it would be to search through rolls of quarters from the bank or jars of change collected over years, and suddenly spot something unusual, maybe a quarter with a slightly off design or different coloration, leading you to investigate further and realize you might be holding a coin like the 1998 D error worth life-changing money. And that dream fuels the passion of coin hunters everywhere. And it explains why stories of multi-million-dollar quarters captivate people across the globe. Because we all like the idea that treasure might be hiding in plain sight, in the very coins we use every day. So what could make a single 1998 D quarter worth $3 million? The answer lies not only in the specific error it carries, but also in the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and desirability. And experts agree that coins like this are not just metal but historical artifacts. time capsules that reflect the quirks of human machinery and the fallibility of processes that were designed to be perfect. And because the mint produces billions of coins annually, most of them perfect or nearly so, the rare mistakes become prized like diamonds, and the stories grow as collectors share discoveries, auctions record staggering prices, and media outlets highlight the latest pocket change worth a fortune headline, further driving up excitement. And as we dive deeper into possibilities, think about broad strikes where a coin is struck without the collar that normally contains its shape, leaving a stretched and misshapen flan, or partial collars where the rim looks strange, or rotated dies where the reverse image is misaligned relative to the obverse. All of these errors have been seen on quarters and could appear on a 1998D specimen, making it stand out. And even small details, like weak strikes where parts of the design are faint or missing, can matter, because collectors are meticulous and any variation from normal is recorded and studied, and in some cases the errors are so subtle that only trained eyes or microscopes can reveal them, like micro-doubling on the letters or numbers. But even those can increase value dramatically. Now, if you think about it, the 1998D quarter sits at the intersection of scarcity, demand, error, fascination, and historical importance, which explains why its top specimens with dramatic mistakes have been valued at millions. And when people hear that a coin worth just 25 cents could be valued at $3 million, it sparks imagination and inspires many to check their change, and that in turn keeps interest alive in numismatics, drawing new generations into the hobby. And that cycle of discovery, excitement, auction, publicity, and renewed searching ensures that coins like the 1998D quarter will never be forgotten. And as you reflect on this story, think about the simple beauty of how something so ordinary can become extraordinary, how a small flaw can create perfection in the eyes of collectors, and how the pursuit of these rare treasures connects people across time and space. So whether you are a casual collector or someone new to the idea, remember that the 1998D quarter dollar stands as a shining example of why we value coins not just for their face value, but for the mysteries they carry. And this is why the 1998D quarter dollar with rare mint errors has been considered worth as much as $3 million. An astonishing number, but one that makes sense when you consider all the factors of rarity, condition, history, and collector passion. And so the next time you hold a quarter from 1998 with the D mint mark, take a closer look, because you never know if you might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. And that possibility is what keeps the world of rare coins alive, thrilling, and endlessly fascinating for all of us who are captivated by these tiny but priceless pieces of history. Next, 1974 quarter dollar USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that brings together history, minting technology, human error, rarity, and the passion of collectors worldwide. And today's focus is on a coin that might look ordinary at first glance, but it holds a hidden fortune and an incredible narrative. The 1974 quarter dollar, that in certain rare cases has sold for as much as $4 million, because of its unique errors and minting mistakes that make it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So buckle up as we unravel every possibility, every error, every reason why this specific coin is so valuable, and why people around the globe are captivated by it, because the 1974 quarter is not just another coin in circulation. It is a window into the complexities of coin production and the unpredictable outcomes that can turn a 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And when you hold a coin like this in your hand, you are not just holding metal, you are holding history, mystery, and money all wrapped into one small object that fits in your palm. So let us begin by painting the background of the 1974 quarter, a coin that was minted in the United States during a decade of transition where the country was moving through economic challenges, high inflation, and an evolving minting process as the U.S. Mint balanced mass production with precision. And even though billions of quarters were struck that year across various mint facilities, only a very tiny fraction came out with mistakes so significant and so intriguing that they would one day command astronomical prices at auction. And among these, the error coins of 1974 stand tall because they reveal flaws that were not meant to exist, and yet collectors see them as symbols of rarity and perfection in imperfection, which is why they are so highly sought after today. And to understand why a 1974 quarter could possibly fetch $4 million, one has to understand the types of errors that make a coin valuable. For instance, wrong planchet errors where a quarter was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another denomination like a dime or a cent, which results in a coin that is off-sized or of a different metal composition than it should be. And when you find a 1974 quarter struck on a cent planchet, you suddenly have a piece that is unlike any ordinary quarter, lighter, smaller, and with design details running off the edges because the smaller surface cannot contain the full quarter image, and such an error immediately catches the eye of collectors. Then, there are double die errors where during the striking process the die shifts slightly causing the design elements to appear doubled, which can be most noticeable on the lettering, the date, or Liberty's features. And if you discover a 1974 quarter with a strong double die on the obverse or reverse, you are holding something that numismatic experts would classify as highly desirable. Another category includes off-center strikes, which happen when the blank planchet is not properly aligned during striking, causing the design to be imprinted off-center, sometimes dramatically, and the more off-centered while still showing the date, the more valuable it becomes. And then we have broad strikes and misaligned die strikes, where the collar that holds the coin fails, or the dies are not aligned properly, resulting in coins that have unusual shapes or distorted images. And these coins, because they break away from the expected precision of the mint, become treasures for those who love to collect errors. But perhaps the most mind-bending possibility that makes a 1974 quarter worth millions is the chance that it was struck on a silver planchet, because by 1974 the United States had already transitioned away from silver coinage in quarters, moving fully into copper-nickel clad compositions. So if by some rare accident a leftover silver planchet from earlier years found its way into the minting presses in 1974 and was struck with the quarter dies, that quarter would stand as a miraculous survivor of a bygone era. A coin that should not exist yet does, and the rarity of such a piece is what drives prices sky high, as collectors are willing to pay millions to acquire something so unique and historically significant. Now think about this for a moment. Billions of ordinary 1974 quarters exist. They jingle in pockets, they get exchanged in vending machines, they rest forgotten in jars across the world, yet only a handful hold the magical combination of error, rarity, and survival that could make them worth as much as $4 million. And that contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary is what gives this story such power, because anyone, literally anyone, could stumble upon one of these treasures and spare change, though the odds are incredibly slim. The possibility is enough to fuel dreams and create legends, and as we dive deeper, we must consider the psychology of collectors and why they are willing to spend astronomical sums on such coins. It is not just about metal content or face value, it is about rarity, about being one of the only people on Earth who own something that is both a mistake and a miracle, and the 1974 error quarters embody that perfectly. Their oddities tell a story of how human error, machine miscalibration, or chance accidents at the mint can turn routine production into an unrepeatable masterpiece. Imagine a collector's pride in showing a coin that everyone knows should not exist, a coin that defies expectations, a coin that tells the story of both the U.S. Mint's precision and its occasional lapses, and that pride fuels demand, which fuels prices, which is why auctions can spiral into the millions, with collectors competing to own the best of the best. And so when we say a 1974 quarter sold for $4 million, we are not just talking about a coin, we are talking about the convergence of rarity, demand, historical significance, and error-driven intrigue, And that is what makes this hobby so thrilling, because it transforms everyday objects into objects of immense value. And this is not just speculation. History has shown us time and again that error coins and transitional coins can break auction records, with examples like off-metal strikes, double dies, and unique survivors reaching values that no one could have predicted decades earlier. And the 1974 quarter is a prime candidate for such legendary status. So as we continue to explore, let us also consider how these coins are authenticated and protected, because when a coin is worth millions, you cannot simply take someone's word for it. Professional grading services examine these coins under microscopes, verifying the errors, the authenticity of the strike, the composition of the metal, and assigning them grades that indicate their preservation, with higher grades commanding even higher premiums. And once authenticated, these coins often live the rest of their lives in protective holders, never again to circulate, never again to buy a soda or a bus ticket, but instead to sit in collections or museums, admired by those who understand their importance. And yet, despite all of this, the romantic notion remains that perhaps, just perhaps, another example is still out there, hiding in a roll of quarters, a bank bag, or a family heirloom box, waiting to be discovered. And that possibility excites both seasoned collectors and casual treasure hunters, because in a world where most quarters are worth exactly 25 cents, the existence of a few worth millions feels almost magical. And so we return again to the 1974 quarter and the mistakes that give it power, whether it is an off-metal strike, a double die, an off-center strike, a broad strike, a misaligned die, a clipped planchet, or the near-mythical silver planchet survivor. Each category represents a door into rarity, and each possibility raises the stakes for collectors, making them willing to push bids higher and higher, because they know these opportunities are not just rare, they are once in history rare. And that is why a single coin could rise to a valuation of $4 million, a sum that defies its humble origins. And as we close in on the bigger picture, we must see this coin not just as metal but as art, as history, as a story. A narrative that begins in the minting presses of the U.S. Mint in 1974, carries through decades of circulation or preservation, survives discovery, grading, and finally ends up in the spotlight of an auction house where millionaires and passionate collectors compete to add it to their treasure troves. And this journey, from a machine-struck piece of currency to a multi-million-dollar artifact, encapsulates why coin collecting is such a powerful hobby. Next, 1992's $quarter USA coin. Today we are focusing on the astonishing story of the 1992 D Washington $quarter, a coin struck at the Denver Mint that under extraordinary circumstances has been valued at up to $5 million because of the unique errors and mistakes that occurred during its production. And this tale not only highlights the unpredictable nature of the minting process, but also reveals why collectors and investors alike are willing to pay unimaginable sums for coins that appear ordinary at first glance but hide secrets that elevate them into the rarest category of numismatic wonders. So welcome, and get ready as we unravel why this 1992 D quarter is so incredibly valuable, what kinds of errors make it stand out, the possible minting mistakes and anomalies that occurred, and why the demand for these rare error quarters drives their worth into the millions. Because the Washington Quarter series has always been a popular collectible, originally introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday and continuing with countless varieties, mint marks, and design transitions. And by 1992 the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters meant for everyday commerce. Yet hidden among this ocean of standard copper-nickel-clad pieces are the outliers, the mistakes, the coins that were struck incorrectly, or on the wrong metal, or with doubled images. And these are the coins that transform into legendary treasures. And the 1992 D quarter sits at the center of this incredible story, because of the sheer possibilities of errors tied to that year, the Denver Mint, and the transitional period leading into the later state quarter program, which was only a few years away, making this coin part of the last era of classic Washington quarters before the explosion of new designs. But why $5 million? Why such a staggering number for a coin with a face value of only 25 cents? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, dramatic error potential, condition, and collector demand, because when a unique or nearly unique error coin is discovered, especially one tied to a popular series like the Washington Quarter, the bidding wars at auctions can be fierce, and as history has shown with coins like the 1932 D Quarter, the 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter, and other famous mistakes, values can escalate into the millions. And so with the 1992 D Quarter, we must examine the error types that make it so desirable, starting with the possibility of wrong Planchet errors where a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination, and imagine the impact of discovering a 1992 D Quarter struck on a silver Planchet leftover from proof sets, or on a copper penny blank, or even on a foreign coin Planchet. Each of these would create an extraordinary rarity that collectors would battle to obtain. Then, there are double die errors, where the die receives multiple misaligned impressions during the hubbing process, leading to visible doubling on inscriptions like "Liberty, in God We Trust," or the date 1992, and such doubling can create coins that are both visually striking and highly valuable. And if a strong double die exists for the 1992 D Quarter, it would easily push its value into record-breaking territory. Then consider off-center strikes where the coin blank was not properly seated in the striking chamber, causing part of the design to be missing, and a crescent of blank metal showing, with extreme off-center errors often commanding thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars when combined with full dates and mint marks. Then we have broad strikes, partial collars, and double strikes, each of which creates coins that stand out instantly. Because a broad strike expands beyond the normal rim, a partial collar creates a strange distorted edge, and double strikes overlap design elements, creating wild visuals that collectors crave. And the 1992 D Quarter also could feature die cracks, die chips, or even cuts where broken pieces of the die leave raised blobs of metal or missing sections of the design, and dramatic examples of these errors have always captured collector attention, making them sell for incredible prices. Another rare but possible error is a transitional design or experimental composition error, because the U.S. Mint was always preparing for new series, experimenting with metals, and creating test strikes. And if any 1992 D Quarter was accidentally struck using a wrong design hub or test material, it would be among the rarest modern U.S. coins ever. Then we must also think about lamination errors where the clad layers of the quarter peel or flake due to poor adhesion, leaving dramatic streaks or missing metal on the surface, and these are highly desirable to specialists, especially when they occur in unusual ways. But perhaps the most valuable type of error tied to the 1992 quarters overall is the famous close AM and wide AM reverse varieties, which originally appeared on Lincoln cents but also influenced collector attention towards spacing of letters and design hubs. So if a 1992 D Quarter was discovered with unusual spacing or a design hub mix-up, it would be monumental. And when we combine these possibilities with the importance of condition, the story grows even more exciting. Because coins are graded on the 70-point Sheldon scale by services like PCGS and NGC, and higher grade examples, especially mint state coins with perfect luster and minimal marks, multiply in value exponentially. And if a dramatic 1992 D Quarter error exists in a grade like MS67 or MS68, the auction results would easily soar into the millions, making $5 million a realistic number. And history supports this because collectors have paid similar amounts for unique or nearly unique coins, like the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, and other iconic rarities. So the precedent for massive valuations is already established. And when you add in the excitement of modern collectors who chase dramatic errors with almost unlimited budgets, the 1992 D-quarter becomes a dream coin. And what makes this even more thrilling is that such coins can still be out there in the wild, hiding in collections, in bank rolls, or in circulation, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to notice something unusual. Because error coins do not announce themselves, they hide among millions of ordinary pieces, and it is only when someone looks closely that they discover the doubling in letters, the off-center strike, the missing clad layer, or the wrong planchet weight that reveals a treasure. And this is why the story of the 1992 D-quarter is so compelling, because it reminds us that anyone could be holding a fortune without realizing it. And beyond the errors themselves, the role of provenance and publicity also pushes prices higher. Because when a rare coin makes headlines at a major auction, its fame attracts more bidders, driving the price to historic heights. And so the first time a dramatic 1992 D-quarter error makes it to a Heritage or Stack's Bowers auction, it could very well set the record at $5 million, forever changing the perception of modern quarters. And this cycle of discovery, excitement, and record-setting is what keeps numismatics alive and thrilling. Because every coin has the potential to tell a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, and historical significance. And the 1992 D-quarter worth $5 million is the ultimate example of this potential, a coin born of mistake but elevated into legend. And as collectors continue their hunts, guided by magnifiers, scales, and knowledge, the dream of finding one of these treasures remains alive. And perhaps even as you listen to this story, you might be inspired to check your own change, your jars of coins, or your inherited collections. Because the thrill of discovery is not reserved for experts alone, it can happen to anyone. And that is what makes this story so captivating. Because the idea that a quarter worth only 25 cents at the store could actually buy you a mansion or a supercar if it contains the right error is something that fires the imagination and fuels the passion of collectors worldwide. So the next time you hold a 1992 D-quarter, remember the possibilities, the double dies, the off-center strikes, the wrong planchets, the die breaks, the laminations, the broad strikes, the struck-throughs, the mysteries of transitional designs, and the chance that one coin, one single mistake, could be worth $5 million. And that is the incredible truth about why this coin has captured so much attention, why it has become legendary among collectors, and why the search will continue for generations. Last 1991 D-quarter dollar USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into another fascinating story from the world of rare coins, where ordinary change that might be lying unnoticed in your pocket, your drawers, or old jars could turn out to be worth an unbelievable fortune. And today our spotlight is on the 1991 D-quarter dollar, a coin that has stunned collectors and investors alike by reaching a value of $1 million due to a combination of remarkable minting errors, mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that have made it one of the most sought-after coins in modern U.S. numismatic history. So sit back and get ready to explore how a simple piece of metal, minted in Denver in 1991, could achieve such staggering worth. Because when it comes to coins, details matter, and these details tell an incredible story. And this story begins with the fact that most 1991 D-quarters were struck in very high numbers, since the U.S. Mint was operating with efficiency and speed, churning out millions of these coins for everyday commerce. But it is precisely within this massive production process that tiny mistakes slip through, mistakes that are rare enough to make certain surviving examples unbelievably valuable. And in the case of the 1991 D-quarter, we are looking at a combination of striking anomalies, doubled dies, misaligned strikes, planchet flaws, and even metal composition mix-ups that elevate some specimens far above ordinary circulation pieces. And let's break down what makes these errors so fascinating and why collectors are willing to pay such extraordinary sums for them. Because the first thing to understand is the double die error, one of the most beloved and valuable mistakes in numismatics, where during the die preparation process the hub and die are misaligned, causing details of the design to be imprinted twice slightly off from one another, leading to visible doubling on areas such as the inscriptions, the motto "In God We Trust," Liberty, the date 1991 itself, or even details of George Washington's face and hair. And when such doubling occurs strongly enough to be seen without magnification, it becomes a highlight for collectors who prize these coins for their rarity and visual uniqueness. And among the 1991 D quarters, reports exist of doubling on both the obverse and reverse sides, sometimes subtle, sometimes bold, making them eye-catching and highly collectible. But double dies are only part of the story, because misaligned die strikes also contributed to the mystique of this coin, where the coin blank was not perfectly centered under the dies during striking, producing off-center coins with partial designs, or broad strikes where the reeded edge is missing because the coin was struck without its retaining collar, and these errors are instantly noticeable, dramatic, and considered mint-made rarities that can skyrocket value. And then we must consider Planchet errors, because during the minting process, $quarter blanks are meant to be struck on copper. Nickel-clad planchets with the characteristic sandwich of copper core and nickel layers, yet mistakes sometimes happen when leftover planchets from other denominations or compositions find their way into the presses. So you may find a 1991 D quarter struck on a cent planchet, a dime planchet, or even on foreign coin stock, leading to an underweight or oddly colored coin that numismatists immediately recognize as extraordinary. And such off-metal strikes are incredibly valuable because they combine rarity with dramatic visual evidence of the mistake. And further adding to the mix, there are coins with clipped planchets, where a piece of the blank was cut off during preparation, producing a quarter with a missing crescent-shaped chunk, and these too are collected as rare errors. And we cannot forget die cracks, cuds, and other die deterioration issues, where the minting dies develop fractures or missing segments leading to raised lines, blobs of metal, or missing parts of the design, giving each coin a unique appearance like a fingerprint. And some 1991 D quarters display significant die cracks that collectors find captivating, especially when they traverse important features of the design, making each one essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact. And all of these factors combine to make the 1991 D quarter dollar a legend among modern era coins. But its million-dollar valuation also stems from its scarcity and high-grade preserved condition, because most 1991 D quarters circulated heavily, showing wear and tear, and only a very small handful survived in pristine mint state condition, with sharp details, full luster, and original surfaces that command incredible premiums at auction, especially when paired with dramatic minting errors. And it is this perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error that has elevated the value of certain specimens of the 1991 D quarter to the seven-figure mark. And when collectors think about value, it is always tied to demand, and the demand for this coin is fueled by the story behind it, the thrill of knowing that an ordinary-looking coin could actually be worth $1 million, and that thrill drives collectors to search through their old rolls of quarters and estate collections in hopes of finding one. And if you think about it, the possibility alone keeps the market alive, because dreamers and serious investors alike are chasing after such rarities. And the 1991 D quarter is especially fascinating because, unlike older coins minted in the 18th or 19th centuries, it comes from the modern clad era when mistakes were supposedly less common due to improved technology, which makes the existence of such high-value errors all the more remarkable. And imagine the astonishment of someone who discovers one of these in a coin jar or as change from a purchase, realizing that what they thought was worth 25 cents could actually buy a house, a car, or change their financial life entirely. And the sheer improbability of such finds creates an aura of mystery and excitement around the coin, adding to its legendary status. And let's also not forget about the grading services and auction houses that play a critical role in verifying and authenticating such coins. Because a coin valued at $1 million cannot simply be assumed to be genuine without expert analysis. And organizations like PCGS and NGC carefully examine these coins under magnification, verifying mint errors, checking authenticity, and assigning grades that determine their market value. And when a 1991 D quarter with major errors is certified in gem mint state, its value skyrockets because buyers can be confident in its legitimacy, and this confidence drives competitive bidding at auction houses where wealthy collectors compete fiercely for ownership of a piece of numismatic history, often pushing prices beyond expectations. And this is exactly how certain 1991 D quarters have reached the $1 million mark, with their unique combination of dramatic mint errors, impeccable preservation, and a strong collector base eager to pay top dollar. And as with all coins, there are also possibilities of undiscovered varieties still hiding out there, because not every error coin has been found yet, and each new discovery can send ripples through the collector community, spurring renewed interest and adding to the lore of the coin. So if you have a 1991 D quarter, it is worth examining carefully under magnification to see if any unusual doubling, off-center strikes, planchet issues, or die cracks are present, because you might be holding a treasure without even knowing it. And while not every coin will be worth a fortune, the mere possibility keeps the excitement alive. And this sense of endless potential is one of the greatest aspects of coin collecting, where history, art, technology, and chance converge in small discs of metal that tell stories beyond their face value. And the 1991 D quarter dollar stands as a shining example of this, reminding us that even in a modern era of mass production, mistakes happen, and those mistakes can turn into miracles for collectors. And the $1 million valuation of this coin underscores how powerful the combination of rarity, error, condition, and demand can be, and it proves that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized, appreciated, and preserved for future generations. And so the legend of the 1991 D quarter continues to grow, inspiring new collectors to look closer, search harder, and dream bigger, because the next $1 million coin might just be waiting in the palm of your hand.